Hello, everyone. Welcome to this discussion on digital transformation and data-driven innovation. My name is Pranav Nambiar. I'm a director of product management on Google Cloud. And today, I have the privilege of being accompanied by Kashif Rahamatullah, who is a principal at Deloitte, and Mamoun Hirzalla, who is a managing director at Deloitte. Together, we're going to examine digital transformation for organizations, the key trends and patterns involved around it. So without further ado, let's dive right in. First of all, Kashif, Mamoun, welcome to this discussion. Thank you for sparing the time for this discussion. To start things off, why don't you tell us more about Deloitte and your partnership with Google Cloud?
Great, Pranav. Thanks for having us and looking forward to this dialogue today. By way of introduction, as Pranav said, Kashif Rahamatullah, and I lead our Google Cloud business here in the US for the Deloitte firm. Pranav, we've had a long-standing relationship with Google Cloud dating back to 2017, which is when we really started working closely with Google Cloud and our joint go-to-market. Over these past 6 years, we've continued to invest in this business and grow our joint activities in the market. We've witnessed the exponential growth Google Cloud has had over the years, so congrats on that. And we as a team have continued to be successful together across hundreds of joint engagements, including many of the major mega deals that Google has announced to the street. Google has also recognized us for our commitment and investment by awarding us with Google Cloud Partner of the Year award for 4 years in a row, in addition to Partner Industry of the Year and Public Sector Services Partner of the Year as well. Our Google practice has grown. It's more than 3,500 people and with more than 7,000 certification across the globe. We continue to invest into this relationship by developing new industry and sector-specific solutions, as well as cross-industry. For example, in the data and AI space, as well as cyber, utilizing the Google stack. And lastly, we continue to develop our dedicated cohort of sales and delivery leaders who are really dedicated to Google Cloud relationship. We continue to jointly solve our clients' most complex problems, while delivering positive ROI. That's really utilizing great technology that Google Cloud is bringing to the market, with our proven engineering, human capital, change management, and global delivery capabilities. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more context of our relationship over the past several years with Google Cloud.
Excellent. I think, you mentioned a lot about key challenges many companies run into. And one of the common pieces that we hear a lot about is about modernization. And in the context of modernization, I think if there's one term we can pick that comes across almost in every customer conversation, that is digital transformation. So how about we go about defining what digital transformation means for an organization?
Hey Pranav, excited to be here and thanks for having us. My name is Mamoun Hirzalla and I lead our Google Cloud Delivery Excellence in the US. This is not to compete with Gen AI, right? So digital transformation is one of those terms that it's almost impossible to have a conversation about cloud without it being mentioned at least once or twice. So when we talk about digital transformation, we really mean the process of using digital technologies to fundamentally change the way we as an organization operate and deliver value to our customers. And the definition is loose by design so that it allows you to incorporate technology adoption of new technologies, reimagining your business processes and models to create more disruptive, innovative type of models that will help you drive growth and agility as part of your organization. Let me mention a few examples here. take Walmart, for example, right? Lots of threats coming to Walmart from different directions with the online retailers. So Walmart did not sit still and do nothing about it. They went and redesigned their brick and mortar retail model, and they made it possible for their customers to shop online and have their orders delivered to their homes. The innovation allowed them to reach a wider audience and compete with traditional online retailers like Amazon, right? So these type of companies found a way to make it much easier to hail a cab or to make a payment or to watch videos in the comfort of your home. And customers quickly adopted these type of things because that was a gap, that was a need in the marketplace, and quickly latched into it. These are just few examples of disruptive business models that changed the way we live and work. And as technology continues to evolve, I'm sure we can expect to see even more disruptive business models that will emerge in the years to come.
Indeed. As you said, the key word here is some element of disruption, right? I think digital transformation is no longer just about solving for the present. It's also solving for the future, trying to figure out how you can disrupt with your innovations. So on that note, can you elaborate a little bit more on how the Deloitte partnership with Google Cloud is enabling companies to realize their true goals with digital transformation?
The examples that Mamoun used in terms of disruptions, right? We've been able to work on a lot of these disruptions with Google's technology, with your partnership in the marketplace, right? It's not an easy thing to do. These digital transformations are multi-year, long engagements or long processes because there's a lot that's changing within an organization.
Great. Anytime you talk about disruptions or the next generation technologies, the key thing that we always hear is there are always going to be challenges. Kashif, you mentioned it could be a multi-year effort. It needs to be well planned, and there are many pieces that a person has to deal with this, right? So can you elaborate a little bit more on some of the core challenges that we have helped customers solve for in their journey on digital transformation?
Thanks, Pranav. So Kashif and I will tag team on this one. So let me start with one of those problems that will not disappear, has been piling up for the last 30 plus years, and it's proving to be a tough nut to crack. Technical debt is what I'm really talking about here, right? So we know that technical debt can be manifested through many different forms, including security, networking, DevSecOps, monolithic architectures, you name it, right? So there are many ways that the tech debt has been piling up within the organizations. Let me take just one of those, focusing on the monolithic architectures and talk about what can we do from app modernization and digital transformation, because lots of the back-end type of systems are still locked in these type of monoliths, and there is a lot of effort that needs to be made in order to break these monoliths and make them more consumable chunks that we can utilize the cloud to re-architect them and use domain-driven design and cloud services to make a sense of what these things are, to put wrappers around them using APIs, and a bit by bit kind of take these capabilities out of the monolith and spin it out on the cloud so that we can unlock all that agility and innovation that can be used as part of the process. The good news is Google Cloud offers us a lot of services when it comes to networking, security, Apigee, JKE runtimes. All of these things are all important as we tackle this last problem in terms of breaking the monolith and providing many of those type of capabilities around it. So definitely there are good synergies there. And I think there are additional things that Kashif can talk about when it comes to additional challenges. Kashif?
Yeah, no, I mean, Mamoun, I'll talk a little bit about, sort of the primary reason why, clients are looking for digital transformation is to be able to be nimble and fast and innovative, to address business needs and business requirements, right? We talked about disruptors. We also should be thinking about as we went into the pandemic, came out of the pandemic, and since then, there's been a lot of transformation that's happening. Transformation in our lives as individuals of where we work, how we work, to how businesses are run, from supply chain to delivery to all of that, right? And all of that required the business owners, the C-suite, to really rethink their cost structures, right? We're now in a situation where economy is tight, and people are, and companies are thinking about how to manage these costs, which is one of the main reasons which drive folks towards transformation and to manage their cost for the core infrastructure, right? Either it could be on-prem or colo, but there is an opportunity when you look at cloud to address the cost aspect of it. But that's not the only reason. I think, Google is one of the top 5 software companies in the world, right? Google Cloud generates enough innovation from a software perspective. So in addition to the infrastructure, now you're also talking about innovation around solutions that address the heart of the business problems. And so that's another challenge that, digital transformation addresses is the spiraling cost of infrastructure, your ability to scale, your ability to take innovation and be able to be quick and agile in terms of how you deliver that innovation at the pace with which the business wants, as at the pace with which the customers want it. And so I think that that's another way to address the challenge is by looking at cloud and what cloud has to offer to address that spiraling cost of infrastructure as well. Another thought that I have in terms of just, a challenge is, change management. I talked a little bit about that earlier, right? We cannot, go too far without thinking about digital transformation requiring you to think about talent, how you're going to retrain your resources, how are you going to manage change, how are you going to drive adoption, right? Those are not simple things to address. And as companies embark on digital transformations, they have to start thinking about those aspects, right? It's people, it's process, and it's technology. But the people aspect is critical. Without adoption, you're really not going to get the momentum behind this transformation that that you're looking for. So having organizations address that at the forefront instead of at the back end is critical and is important. Mamoun, any other thoughts you have?
Yes, thank you, Kashif. And I'll pick up on the thread that you talked about when it comes to costs, right? So I'll just go back in memory to talk briefly about SOA days, right? Service-oriented architecture. We all thought, circa 2004, 5, 6, whatever the time frame where everybody was jumping on the bandwagon, that with these type of composable services and business processes, that there is a good chance that we will have a good view into what the data and unlocking these silos and all of that good stuff that was promised at the time. Unfortunately, if you look at it today, the story is equally concerning when it comes to data. We continue to see these data silos and lack of governance and data quality issues, and in the ability, our inability to get the right insights. All of these things are driving the costs that are coming into it. The cloud provides a great opportunity because now the maturity of AI and the need for that data, the insights that everybody is claiming to have, and lots of companies are asking the question, what do I need to do to get there? So that becomes a good pivoting point where you can no longer afford to have bad data, bad governance when it comes to the data. So everybody is kind of putting a ton of effort in order to fix that question so that I can get the insights that I'm getting or I'm hoping to get, and then enable my organization for the AI journey. The good news also on the Google front, we have tons of data services that allows us to scale and transform as part of the process. Whether you're talking about Spanner, BigQuery, Bigtable, these are very scalable, transformative type of services. And to augment these type of services, things related to data pipelines, things related to existing type of legacy type of systems that you want to migrate to the cloud in less or no change as possible in terms of Hadoop and converting to Dataproc. All of these things are equally important type of services that Google's offers to help with answering that question. And on the governance side, we have the data catalogs and the Dataplex, which also offers a very compelling view into the process. And once you get all that stuff sorted out, you start looking into AI and Vertex AI and obviously Gen AI and all of these things that needs to happen. And I'm not saying that you have to boil the ocean to get to AI and Gen AI. All what I'm saying is the data and the quality of the data and the governance of the data is a lingering problem. The more you can do about it to solve and cleanse and automate, the better you will be better off to get the right insights and the better AI and all of these things that are associated with it. So that's just putting it on that front. And I know Kashif talked about the talent and change management and all of these things. Other disruptors that we see and challenges, the discussion is not complete without cybersecurity, resiliency, and disaster recovery topics, right? So the cyber threats, we continue to see an expansion of that. We see more sophisticated tools that are being used and employed for malicious cyber attacks, right? The majority of the businesses don't have enough budgets or the right skills to keep up with all of these type of challenges. On the other hand, we see Google that's constantly investing and advancing their security posture. And the fact that, I remember circa 2009-10, when we wanted to talk about the cloud, the first question that comes up, what about security? What about security? We don't hear that question anymore. The fact that the government, banks, healthcare, and all of these type of industries are embracing cloud tells you something about how advanced cloud security has become. On the front of data recovery and backups and resiliency, the cloud also offers you an affordable way to kind of a path to where you can spin up, spin down these type of systems much easier way, and allows you to consume resources as needed. So just to summarize, these are many of the ones that we see everywhere, and I'm sure there are others, but for the sake of time, we'll just stay over here. Pranav, back to you.
Perfect. In fact, as you said, there are so many different aspects to deal with when you deal with digital transformation journeys, right? I think, Mamoun, you mentioned about breaking down the silos, and Kashif, you mentioned about cost management, change management, and both of you mentioned about leveraging kinds of technologies to actually get you there, making the right choices, trade-offs, and decisions. So to drive home the point, I think it may be best to maybe take an example that we can actually talk about. So could you tell us about a digital transformation journey? I'm sure you worked with a number of different companies worldwide. Now let's pick one digital transformation journey that you have worked in partnership with GCP and tell us more about how you went about it, what were the results, and how exactly it impacted the company.
Yeah, Pranav, nothing brings the point home better than an example, as you said, right? And so, while we've, as a firm worked across multiple industries with Google, in healthcare and life sciences, in retail and consumer products, in financial services, in, technology, media, entertainment, gaming, in energy and resources. The one example that I'll pull out is one that we did work together on at a large retail client. They were the challenge that this retailer had was they had thousands of stores across the country that they were looking to really optimize. As retailers went into the pandemic, specifically in the core grocery area and grocery business, they had to quickly pivot from people coming into their store to people really driving up to their store to fulfill the orders, right? So it was really important for them to kind of pivot to that, order online and pick up, at the curbside, right? But then when COVID tour ended and people were back in the store, they needed to make sure that the shelves were full. And how do you make, these pivots so quickly with thousands of stores, right? So one of the things that we did together with Google at this one large retailer was to look at the efficiency of the store associates and how can they be more efficient in what they, how they're stocking, what they're stocking, right? Are the shelves empty where they're supposed to be full and they're overflowing when there's already stock on the shelves, right? So it was that sort of efficiency and analytics that they really wanted to drive towards. They wanted to tell an individual store associate that this is where you should be because this is where the most value that you can deliver is, right? Versus, again, as I said, working on something that's, not necessarily that valuable. As a result of what we built together, using Deloitte's Converged Consumer for retail, solution, as well as, Google's BigQuery and Spanner and other technology solutions, what we saw was an increase in sort of carton stock per hour, total reduction of hours wasted per shift, labor costs reinvested back into high value operations, and completed store walks per shift increased up from a 60% baseline. We did that through proof of concept, and then the results were so great that the client basically wanted us to expand that across 2,000 plus physical stores. So that was one transformation that was highly impactful, highly valuable, both for the customer directly as well as their clients, the retail buyers, and was delivered leveraging Google technology and Deloitte's know-how about the store operations. Hopefully that
Nice.
gives
That's
you a
a
good example. Yeah.
Yeah, frankly, that's a great example, Kashif. I think it also touches upon how problems are constantly evolving. While you might think that you have solved for one problem, but until and unless your solutions can scale up to any other, unpredictable problems in the future, you've essentially not got to the level of digital transformation, isn't it? And I think one of the key enablers, I think you or both of you just mentioned that, is picking the right kind of transformative technologies, specifically in domains like data management, where it's a little bit complicated. You've got different kinds of data, silos, you've got volumes of data, you need security, you need to enforce reliability, and so on. So on that note, definitely Google has a number of such technologies in this domain. Can you touch upon how Google's transformative technologies have enabled in helping customers realize their data-driven innovation dreams?
Sure. Thanks, Pranav. This is a great point, and a lot of customers are definitely on the lookout to what happens to their IT investments. It's no small feat to come and say, okay, I'm going to go with a cloud provider and put a lot of investments for the future of the applications, right? So you are really on the lookout for what does it really mean when I go. Kashif mentioned that a great example of that retailer. 20 stores, 80 stores to 2,000 stores, one geo to multiple geos. What does that really mean for my selected services within my cloud provider, right? Luckily, they used Google. And Google, we know that it's no secret, they are very committed to continuous innovation and investment in cloud services and data solutions, right? So that basically makes you rest assured always that, Google has my back when it comes to these type of services. When my business needs change, when my scalability, durability, flexibility type of requirements change, I know that there is something that can support me in that ever increasing volume and variety of data that's coming my way, right? Today we see one scenario, there could be 10 scenarios unforeseen in the future. We know that Google in their roadmaps, they're looking 2-3 years ahead. Before we can even think about it, they are developing these type of solutions to make sure that these solutions are future proof and the investment is carried over with as seamless as disruption as needed when it comes to these type of services. So that level of trust that customers has put in Google created a lot of goodwill that makes them resting that the investment will always pay off and any changes that are needed will be covered as part of the process. Let me touch briefly on Gen AI capabilities, because that's also another major disruptive trend, very much related to the data. Google offers these type of capabilities to our clients to think forward and think of even more disruption into these type of business model. Kashif and I talk to a lot of clients, and I think we don't have a single Deloitte client today who hasn't asked us about Gen AI and what does that mean for their business. I think this is a great time for Deloitte and Google to continue to help our clients advance their innovation agenda and continue to partner together in this wonderful journey.
Perfect. I'm sure the many folks who will be tuning into this discussion and they are most likely considering digital transformation are already in the process of digital transformation. And you folks have already worked with a number of companies around the globe and definitely gathered a lot of different insights in the process. So if you had to pick maybe a couple of your key insights, what would those insights be that you would think any company thinking of this kind of a transformation or modernization would definitely benefit from?
So let me take this one, and I know Kashif has an opinion on that one, so we'll tag team on this one. So I think one of the key success factors across all the engagements that we have done, throughout our careers, whether that's SOA, cloud, you name it, right? There is always one fundamental deliverable that will be very crucial to the success of these type of transformations. And I'm talking really about here the vision, the roadmap, and the target state, and having a very clear vision into what is it that you're trying to build. That seems like a common sense, but honestly, we've seen it many times being overlooked. And I'm not exaggerating here. As time goes on, the vision can get blurry and people will start questioning some of these decisions. And that happens all the time. And that's why it's important to make sure that we have that vision documented. We continue to visit that vision regularly and make sure that it's still relevant. More importantly, we have also the guardrails, right? A vision can also look into a deeper type of adoption process, whether I want to, for example, be very prescriptive in terms of what is my analytics strategy is going to be, what type of data warehousing on the cloud is going to be. I may spin out certain threads because I think this could be part of the crucial type of decisions for my organization and I want to nail it once for all. So we spin these type of special groups that look at the question, research it, come back with multiple recommendations with pros and cons, and a decision is made. And that gets locked down in a vision statement that describes these things in very prescriptive manner. So that becomes your true north. When somebody comes and starts questioning these things, you continue to refer them to that vision document that keeps being updated continuously, and that would serve you very well as part of the process. Kashif, I'm sure you have your scars on your back as well that you can share with us.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about how to distill this down to two. There's a top 10 list, I'm sure, that both Mamoun and I can kind of walk you through here. But in the interest of time, I think in addition to the North Star and having that always in front of you, making sure you're referring to it, again and again every time the vision gets blurry, is also, managing, and having discipline throughout this journey, right? Starting with sort of how you establish the transformation program. How do you communicate to all the key stakeholders that are going to be participating in this program as to what the outcomes are going to be and when are they going to be, right? Managing that clear path of communication throughout the transformative journey, right? Making sure that they understand, each one of the stakeholder groups understand what's in it for them, right? Making sure that that language is simple to understand, that excitement is, because some of these transformation programs can take, 6 months, 12 months, a year, 2 years, right? Mostly longer than shorter. You have to make sure that those stakeholders stay interested and connected and feel like they're receiving the value to which they signed up for, right? So making sure that you have that discipline, setting and managing the right expectations and making sure that there's consistency in that execution, that you're reminding them of what you're bringing to the table, the value that it's delivering, and you continuously kind of communicate that. I think that discipline throughout the journey around this program of a transformation is super critical to the success of the program, so that people don't feel like they're tired or they've got fatigue. That this was set up as a 18-month program, still on track, etc. Right? So that is, I feel like, a very critical component of making these transformations successful.
Totally agree. In fact, I think you both did a fantastic job distilling it down to two insights. I knew it's going to be more difficult to distill it down to fewer insights than actually going broad. Definitely, I think, vision is extremely critical to actually figure out and clarify what is the target you're after. And on the other hand, you definitely need a disciplined approach so that you can actually make progress towards your target in a very measured manner. If I were to add something, I would say maybe it's also another piece of the puzzle is around making the right technological choices, which can help you accelerate in this journey and ultimately make sure you are going in the right direction at the right pace so that you can actually go about building these disruptive innovations. Perfect. I think at Google, definitely we are striving hard to innovate on behalf of the customer, trying to anticipate the future trends, both for our own Google products and also deliver the same via cloud services to our customers. On that note, I wanted to ask you if there is one thing that you would wish for from us, the Google team, what would that be?
Yeah, Pranav. I mean, I think you hit on a very key component of that, which is, continuously, being innovative and being hungry in terms of solving, keeping the customer at the center, right? This partnership is successful not because Google is great, only because Google has great technology and we have great delivery experiences, but that's actually alignment of our cultures and alignment of our mindset, which puts customer at the center of the universe, right? Google is very focused on delivering innovation and value to the customers. We're very centered and focused around delivering impact to the business and to our customers and customers' customer, right? So that sort of centers us and aligns us very well in this partnership. In terms of beyond innovation and beyond partnering, right? What I would ask Google is to continue to listen to our customers together, right? Laser focus around solving those business issues, right? Bringing a deep verticalized subsector specific set of solutions to the table, right? I personally, and I know Mamoun is on the same page. We both really believe that there's a great sense of engineering execution, thought leadership, and really scale that we can bring to help our customers both here in the U.S. as well as globally. And so again, my ask is for Google to continue to innovate, to continue to be putting the customer at the center and really driving and focus on delivering value for their bottom line.
Yeah, could not agree more, Kashif. I think we see great examples of Google's innovation everywhere, and this is a huge emphasis that needs to happen and continue to happen as part of the plan going forward. So
Absolutely. I think, customer is the centerpiece for both our companies, and we want to do what is right for the customer, build the right technologies that will enable them. So definitely looking forward to, continuing this innovation journey together. Kashif, Mamoun, thank you so much for sharing your expert insights on the topic of digital transformation and data-powered innovations. I definitely am looking forward to continuing our partnership as we go along, building new solutions for our customers so that we can drive more value for consumers all across the globe. Thank you.
thank you,
Thanks,
Pranav.
Pranav.
Thanks for having us.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.